Shavua Tov, a gute Woche, uberuchim habaim. Tonight, Mitzvah Shabbos is one day after Chof Dalet Teves. Chof Dalet Teves was Friday, and today is Shabbos. And Shabbos is Chof Hei Teves, one day after Chof Dalet Teves. And it reminds me of what happened 40 years ago. Tovshin Mem Dalet, exactly 40 years ago. The Kriyas that year was the same as it is this year. Chof Dalet Teves was Friday. And we were thinking when to make the Mlava Malke of the Tzerzoim of the Alter Rebbe. Whether we should make it a week before, but then it's going to be away from Chof Dalet Teves, because Chof Dalet Teves is Friday. Or we should make it Mitzvah Shabbos Kedesh Chof Hei Teves, because that is Besmichus. And I really didn't know what to do. Finally, I made a decision to make the Mlava Malke Chof Hei Teves, which means one day after Chof Dalet Teves. Shabbos Chof Hei Teves, there was a Fabringen. The Rebbe came into the Fabringen, and Rabbi Groner was carrying a small bottle of vodka. Not a large bottle of vodka, a small bottle of vodka, and he put it right in front of the Rebbe. Of course, nobody understood what this bottle of vodka meant. And during the Fabringen, the Rebbe said that tonight is the Mlava Malke of the Tzerzoim, of the Alter Rebbe, and he says, and it's good that it's tonight that is besomuch to the Yoltzeit of the Alter Rebbe. So the Rebbe agreed that it was a good thing that it would be that Mitzvah Shabbos. And then the Rebbe spoke about a Sicha, about the Tzerzoim of the Alter Rebbe. In short, he said that in davening, in our liturgy in the morning, we say, V'niyeh anachnu v'tze'etzoenu, and we should be in our children. The Rebbe said that in some Nuschois it says V'tze'etzoenu, V'tze'etzoenu, and the children of our children. The Alter Rebbe, however, chose to put in right only V'niyeh anachnu v'tze'etzoenu. And the Rebbe explained the difference, that when you say V'niyeh anachnu v'tze'etzoenu, v'tze'etzoenu, you're only talking about 3 generations, about anachnu, our generation, and our children and our children's children. Whereas when you say V'niyeh anachnu v'tze'etzoenu, you're talking about all future generations. And then the Rebbe said something that is absolutely heartwarming. And he said that the Alter Rebbe, in the word v'tze'etzoenu, put in everyone. B'nei Memale Mekemei, the Mittel Rebbe, he put the Mittel Rebbe, and all the descendants of the Alter Rebbe are standing in the same word, v'tze'etzoenu, together with the Mittel Rebbe. After the Sicha, the Rebbe called me, had the schus, the Rebbe called me over, and he gave mashke from that little bottle. And he says that little bottle of mashke came from Russia, the place of the Alter Rebbe. And he's giving this for the Mlava Malke of the Tzerzoim to make the Mlava Malke even more viable and even stronger. I must tell you, Rabbi, say this happened 40 years ago. The good days, the good old days, as the expression goes. Shabbos was a Fabringen, and you go over to the Rebbe, or you rent, and you hear the Rebbe, and you're longing after those days. They are mentioned, and they are happening again. And Emir Hashem, friends, the Rebbe tells us so many times that we are the last generation of Golus, and the first generation of Geula. And Emir Hashem, soon, those wonderful days will start again, never, ever to stop, and will run for all of eternity. Before we continue, Rabbi, there was a story I told you last week, but I heard more details to that story, and they are very important for us. I mentioned last week that I heard it from the grandson of the individual. The name of the individual was Reb Hershel Lifshitz. Reb Hershel Lifshitz lived in Vienna, and he was a winemaker. This I told you last week. The detail that I didn't tell you last week is that it was not on Simchas Torah, it was on Shavuos. The Rebbe would send shluchim every Shavuos to Borough Park, and this was on Shavuos. So the shluchim went to Borough Park, and they went into the Wiener shul in Borough Park, and the Hershel Lifshitz, for whatever reason, chose not to let them speak. And later it came to the Rebbe that the Rosh HaKol, the Lifshitz, did not let the shluchim speak, and the Rebbe asked, "Welcher Lifshitz? From Wien? Which Lifshitz? From Vienna?" Then I told you it got back to the Hershel Lifshitz, and he felt bad about it, and he was afraid of Akpede. Maybe the Rebbe is not happy, and he was really afraid. When the Rebbetzin passed away, and I told you the story, but I just want to complete it, that he went over he came to Nichum Avelim, and he asked the Rebbe that the Rebbe should be meichel him, that he didn't let the Rebbe Shluchim speak in his shul on Shavuos. And the Rebbe said to him, "Nachdem we men hat gemacht Kiddush auf Eier Wein, a sehr viel Mol, is me lechatchile do a mechile gemure." After we made Kiddush on your wine, so many times, so from the start there is a complete forgiveness. What is new this week is the details that his name was the Hershel Lifshitz. He continued with the Lifshitz Wine Company, spelled Lipschutz, that continued here in the United States, and the shluchim were for Shavuos, and this is what the Rebbe answered him. Talking about Chavdala Tevis, and it's now within the 3 days of Chavdala Tevis. What does the Alter Rebbe do on Chavdala Tevis? What does he do on Chavdala Tevis? And the answer is, he says Teira, in Pamalya Shalmaila, and one more thing that he does. And the Alter Rebbe says it in the Geras HaKedesh Simen Chof Ches. What does he do? On the day of his Yortzeit, Lechaper al Avein Hader, he atones for the sins of the generation, Avgam al Asdenes, even on the deliberate sins. So if you want to know what the Alter Rebbe did on Chavdala Tevis, he made a big Sudi in Gan Eden, and it says over here, Opeil Yeshua is Bekedav Ha'oretz, that he effects salvation in the thick of the land where it's really needed, Lechaper al Avein Hader, to atone for the sins of the generations, Avgam al Asdenes, even for the deliberate sins. This is what the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, in the Geras HaKedesh Simen Keach Simen Chof Ches. One would argue that this doesn't happen every year. This happens on the day of the Histalkus of the Tzaddik. So in the case of the Alter Rebbe, this is what happened on Chov Dalet Teves Tov Kuf Ein Gimel, 211 years ago. This is what happened then. But not necessarily that it happens every year. Comes our Rebbe, and he says in the Sicha very clearly that not only does it happen every year, because in all matters of Torah and mitzvahs, you go from strength to strength. It happens every year with a greater strength. The Rebbe says that clearly, which means that this Chavdala Tevis, what did the Alter Rebbe do? He affected Peil Yeshua's Bekedav Ha'oretz. He affected salvation in the thick of the land, and God knows we need it, in the thick of the land where it's really needed. Lechaper al Avein Hader Avgam al Asdenes, to atone for the sins of the generation, even for the deliberate sins. This is what the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, Geras HaKedesh Simen Chof Ches, and the Rebbe says that it happens every year with more strength on the Yortzeit of the Tzaddik. Concerning the Alter Rebbe, and one would say, well, it's a day, and we're going to observe the day, but it's not so simple. The Alter Rebbe founded the movement of Chabad, and wrote so many Sforim that each and every one of us has a connection with the Alter Rebbe by saying Chitas every day, and also by being a Chabad Chosid, following the teachings of the Alter Rebbe. Of all the teachings of the Alter Rebbe, we chose this one. It's only a choice. But the reason for that is it's also in the Geras HaKedesh Simen Chof Hei, But the Alter Rebbe says, and I quote, "Lehovini milibine, we can understand words of wisdom. Mashakosov b'sefer anikra tzavoas libosh." There's a sefer called Tzavoas Holivosh, which means the Tzavoah of the Bitzlor Baal Shem. And then the Alter Rebbe says, "Hagam shebe'emes eino tzavoosei." This is not his tzavoah. It's not a sefer of tzavoah. You look at it, doesn't look like a tzavoah. V'letziva klal lifnei ptirosei, and this is not what he said before he passed away. Like him Lukuti and Meresav Adheres, these are pure imeres, sayings of the Baal Shem Tov. Shalok to Lukuti, Bosa Lukuti, that one after the other, they put it together. V'liyodu lechavin haloshen al maskunte. They didn't know the exact definition of the loshen of the language employed by the Baal Shem Tov. But the general idea is very true. And then the Alter Rebbe chooses one of the things the Baal Shem Tov said. And this is what the Alter Rebbe chooses to tell us. And there is a Gemara, the Gemara says, whoever is chaos, becomes angry, it's as if he worships idols. Now, the Gemara says that. But we want to understand exactly what it means. He became angry. Somebody did something wrong to him, or he figured he did something wrong, and he became very angry. And it can happen to anyone, and to everyone. Says the Gemara, if you become angry, it's like you worshipped idols. Wait a minute. Worshipped idols? Ki'ilu Evid Avidas Kechovim Mazolis. We know the worst sin is worshipping idols. And what happened here? He got angry. And maybe he was even right. Why did he get angry? Because somebody did him wrong. And we're not saying that somebody did not do him wrong. Somebody did him wrong. So arguably, he had a reason to be angry. Says the Gemara, you're becoming angry? It's like you worship idols. How do you understand that? So the Alter Rebbe chooses this Gemara. And the saying of the Baal Shem Tov explains that. And the reason we chose it, because this is something that happens to everyone, on a bigger scale, on a smaller scale, where a person becomes angry or a little bit angry. I don't know the difference, a little bit, a lot, becomes angry for something that somebody did him wrong. And not that maybe they did him wrong, they actually did him wrong. They hurt him, they cursed him, and became angry. Somebody cursed him. Somebody said a bad word about him in his face. Somebody embarrassed him in his face. Somebody embarrassed him publicly, as we are soon going to see. So one would argue he became angry. It's the natural thing for a human being to become angry. Says the Gemara, you become angry, it's like you worshipped idols. So the Alter Rebbe chooses to explain to us this Gemara, and why is it equivalent to worshipping idols, which is the worst offense that can be, Avodah Zarah. And the Alter Rebbe answers, Lefi shebeis kaasei, because in the time of his anger, nistalko mimenu ha'emuno, the emunah was removed from him. The belief was removed from him. Ki'ilu hayomamin shebeis Hashem hoisos eislei, that if he would believe that what happened to him now, that somebody embarrassed him in public and cursed him in public, that came from God himself. Then lahoya bekas klal, then he wouldn't be angry, because this is what God ordained for him. So why did he become angry? Because for the moment he forgot that God has done it. So therefore here's the equivalency to Avodah Zarah, that he forgot about God. And then the Alter Rebbe says like this, and although there's a person that curses him, and that person didn't have to curse him, he is a Baal B'chila, he has choice, but he chose to curse him, so he chose the wrong choice, right? Emakehu, or he hit him. It's not that he wanted to hit him, somebody hit him, so he's angry, somebody hit him. Mazik Momene, or he's doing harm to his property. That person is going to be guilty, either in a court of God or in a court of man. If he destroyed his property, he's going to be guilty in a court of man. How can you destroy somebody else's property? He's called him to Adin Torah, and he will have to pay. Or in a case where a person cursed him, so we're talking about the court of God. But who made him curse? So although this person who did it is guilty, and he will have to pay the price, nevertheless, al hanizek, on the person to whom it happened, it's already ordained from heavens. Almighty God, there's many ways of bringing it on him. And if it wouldn't be this person that cursed him, this person that hit him, it would be another person that hit him. And then the Alter Rebbe says, and this is something that we really have to understand, moreover, there's more to it. In this moment, Shemakehu, that person hits him. Excuse me for saying, I'm only saying this for the clarity of the argument. Somebody hits you. Says the Alter Rebbe, I know it's difficult, but for the clarity of the words of the Alter Rebbe, says the Alter Rebbe, that at that moment that person hits you or hits me, or curses you, or curses me, and I'm angry for good reason. Why is he cursing me? Mislabish bekeach Hashem, in that person, it's enclosed now, the power of Hashem v'ruach previous borech, and the power of Almighty God, Hamchayehu, who gives that person sustenance and life, Umekaime, and so gives him life and sustenance, Uchmeshikosov ki Hashem Omalekalil. There's the story with Shimi ben Geyerom. And maybe one of the reasons that we are talking about it now, it's also the Haftarah Pashas Vaychi, where David HaMelech says to Shlomo HaMelech, his son, before he passed away, that there was a Jew, Shimi ben Geyerom, and he cursed me a very strong curse. That's what it says in the Haftarah. You can look it up. Says after that it could be Ki Hashem Omad Lekalel, that Almighty God told him that he should curse. Almighty God told Shimi ben Geyerom that he should curse David HaMelech. Really? God told Shimi ben Geyerom he should curse David HaMelech? You don't find it. It doesn't say in Tanakh. Asks the Alter Rebbe the question that you are asking yourself. Where do we find that Almighty God said to Shimi? We don't find it any place. Answers the Alter Rebbe, Elo shemachshov ozu shenoflo l'Shimi belibe umechi, that this machshove that came into the mind of Shimi, into this mind, and then into his meach, in his heart, and into his mind, to curse David HaMelech. Where did Shimi ben Geyerom get this thought? Where did he get it from? Says the Alter Rebbe, Yovlo me'es avaye v'ruach piv amchaye kol tzvom. And me'es avaye v'ruach piv amchaye kol tzvom, hechi yeruche shel Shimi b'shah shediba dvarim ela l'David. It's the words and the power of God that gave Shimi life and sustenance when Shimi said these words. So when Shimi said the words of curse, of klolo, of curse to David HaMelech, Almighty God put that thought in his mind, and not only that, he gave him the strength and the sustenance to execute it, to say it. Moreover, says the Alter Rebbe, because if Almighty God would remove his power for 1 second or for one split of a second from Shimi, then he couldn't say anything. And if he said it, it's the power of God that did it. Comes the Alter Rebbe, and I must tell you, Rebbe say this is absolutely revolutionary. Somebody cursed you, and you have every right in the book to be angry. Says the Alter Rebbe, you're going to be angry? It's like you're worshipping idols. Because for a moment you forgot one thing, that the person who cursed you, or hit you, or did damage to your property, did not do it on his own. Almighty God sent him. Almighty God gave him the idea to do it. So therefore, difficult to say we deserved it. This person had the freedom of choice and is going to be punished. punished by a court of man, punished by a court of God. He's going to be punished. Nevertheless, if we got it, that means that we deserve it. And that Almighty God wanted to give it to us. This is how we should look. This is how the Alter Rebbe brings from the Baal Shem Tov, and he answers, why kol hakes kilo eved aved zorah? Why if we get angry is because we forget for the moment that it came from God. And that is, in a way, worshipping idols because we forgot the existence of God. This is what the Alter Rebbe says. And chosen here because in one way or another, in one fashion or another, bigger, smaller, it can happen to every person in their own personal life. And that Alter Rebbe teaches us a lesson, however difficult. But the Alter Rebbe teaches us this lesson, how we should take it. We live, Rabbi say, in the last generation of Golus. The Rebbe said it so many times. And we're preparing for the coming of Mashiach in our generation. This is why it's even more important when something negative comes our way to take it, not that it happened because this one, and he made all kinds of calculations. Almighty God is still sending a message to us. So once we remember that everything comes from Him, then we take it differently. God Himself did it, so therefore we take it differently. And this is how the Alter Rebbe explains it. And this has something to do with each person, at one time or another, all the time. So Alter Rebbe is to help we should only hear of good things, and of happy tidings, and good things should happen to each and every single one of us. And in the last few moments of Golus, we should utilize those moments to work with another part of Elam Hazeh, to work with Elam Hazeh, and to refine Elam Hazeh, and to prepare ourselves and our world and our part of the world for the Gulu HaMitis ve'Ashlema coming our way, Gesundheit und Freilichkeit. ובעגולו דידן, ובשמחה ובטוב לבוב, ובטבע נירה והניגלה, ולמטה מעשר הטפוחים, ובחסד וברחמים, ותקף ומיד ממש.